32 years. 32 years since the time there was hatred, bigotry and rampant domination or play out of exclusivity, as they would say, in Jammu and Kashmir, when Kashmiris had to leave their homes because they were not Muslim. 32 years this has happened. Nobody is talking about it, ladies and gentlemen, but we're going to highlight it and we're going to talk about this. This is what happened. Over 700 Kashmiri pandits were killed. No official figure, and it started this day. This day it started on the 14th of September, 1989, 1990, then onwards. 70,000 Kashmiri pandit families migrated between 1989 and 1992. 64,951 families are now registered as migrants outside Jammu and Kashmir. So for those who said that it was not happened, it happened. It happened, and it was a repeat of what happened in 1947, where many look at the date of October 22, 1947. But this all started again through September, where under Maharaja Hari Singh, and at that point in time, there were these instances. Migrants spread over Jammu, Delhi, NCR, other states. In Jammu, those camps still say a story of neglect and being forgotten. Only 800 families, approximately Kashmiri Pandit families, remain in Jammu and Kashmir, out of more than 75,000 plus. Biased approach to Kashmiri Pandits by the state government. This has been a claim which has always been made. What the victims have said. Very few FIRs have been filed and crimes have never been documented. Never have there been punishments meted out for genocides. Whatever has happened is mere lip service. But since the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A going on, since 5th of August 2019, have things finally take a change? Are things finally taking the right turn? June 2021, a 130-year-old Shiv temple in Gulmarg was renovated and reopened for the public. Then what happens next? In July 2021, land transfer in Jammu and Kashmir was cleared for flats for Kashmiri Pandits. August 2021, Janmashtami procession in Srinagar taken out by Kashmiri Pandits and Hindus for the first time in 32 years. First time in 32 years. September 2021, a portal for Kashmiri Pandits to reclaim their properties had been launched, and even on the day of the launch, there were 750 grievances that had already been listed, if I remember correctly. Panel approved for restoration of Jammu and Kashmir architecture and heritage. All of this is happening. COVID may have set things back because the priorities shifted, but now are things finally taking the right turn in Jammu and Kashmir is what we ask. The hashtag is Kashmir Hindu Exodus. Let's go across to our panelists this evening. To the gentleman and the lady, thank you very, very much. Pleasure to speak to you. Paucity of time, or we had to shorten the conversation today because of the developments that have happened on the terror crackdown front earlier. But Dr. Agnishekhar, author, poet and convener, Panun Kashmir is with us. Arti Tikku, founder and editor of the New Indian is with us. And Lalit Ambardar, Kashmiri activist is with us. Dr. Agnishekhar, namaste. Do you think
मौका दिया बात करने का?
मौका मैं तो हमेशा आप लोगों से बात करना चाहता हूं, बट क्या करें, कुछ ना कुछ होता रहता है। पर आज एक दिन था जहां इसको भूलना नहीं चाहिए था। कई लोग भूल गए, किसी ने इसकी बात नहीं की। पर अब क्या आपको लगता है कि कुछ ना कुछ 32 साल के इंतजार के बाद कुछ उम्मीदें जग रही हैं, कुछ बदल रहा है?
बदलने को तो एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल स्टेटस बदला है जम्मू कश्मीर का कि आपने धारा 370 हटाई है, 35A हटाया है और पुनर्गठन किया है राज्य का, लद्दाख अलग हुआ है यूटी। इतना ही मात्र हमको दिखता है कि बदलाव है, लेकिन 370 हटने के बाद जो कुछ किया जाना चाहिए था वो अभी करना बाकी है। यानी जैसे आपने बहुत अच्छे से कहा कि हम लोगों का ये माइग्रेंट, आपने भी शब्द किया, बहुत गलत शब्द आपने भी इस्तेमाल किया। माइग्रेंट्स हम नहीं हैं, हम विक्टिम्स ऑफ जेनोसाइड हैं, और ये रिटर्न नहीं है। ये जानबूझ के सरकारों ने ये ऐसे गलत शब्द और ये मिसलीडिंग नॉमेनक्लेचर दिया, लेक्सिकॉन्स दिए, जिससे मिसलीड हुआ नेशन, वर्ल्ड हुआ। ये माइग्रेशन नहीं है, ये है रिलीजियस क्लींजिंग एंड जेनोसाइड। और ये रिटर्न नहीं है, ये है आपका रिवर्सल ऑफ जेनोसाइड। और जेनोसाइड की कितनी तहें हमने देखी, आपने खुद कहा कि 22 अक्टूबर 47 में जो हुआ, हमने उसको एड्रेस नहीं किया। देखिए उसका नाम भी आपने रखा कबायली हमला, जबकि वो कबायली हमला ना हो करके एक मिसलीडिंग था। पाकिस्तान ने सीधे सीधे एक जिहादी हमला किया था, कश्मीर को ब्लॉक छीन कर पाकिस्तान बनाना, लेकिन आपने उसको यानी दुनिया ने, हमारी सरकारों ने उसको कबायली ट्राइबल रेड कहा, जबकि वो ट्राइबल
वो था ही नहीं, क्योंकि वो किताब जो 1974 में किताब भी तो निकली थी, वो फॉर्मर जो जनरल जो मास्टरमाइंड थे, जो लियाकत अली के साथ बैठ के उन्होंने प्लान बनाया था कि हम इसको कबायली का रूप देंगे, लेकिन उसमें पाकिस्तानी आर्मी के ही लोग शुमार थे, फौज के लोग शुमार थे, वो पूरा फौज का काम था।
वही तो मैं कहता हूं कि इंडियन स्टेट हैज फेल्ड दिस नेशन। इंडियन स्टेट की मैं बात कर रहा हूं, जो भारतीय राज्य है, इट हैज ऑलवेज बीन एट क्रॉस विद इंडियन सिविलाइजेशन, क्योंकि हम उस सिविलाइजेशन को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, हम उस सिविलाइजेशनल कॉन्टिन्यूटी को करते हैं जो हजारों साल से, जिसे आप इंडिक सिविलाइजेशन कहते हैं। व्हाटएवर कश्मीरी पंडित्स हाउंडेड आउट, they were less in number, very minuscule भी आप कहते हो, लेकिन अगर आप minuscule हो, less हो, insignificant हो, where you are being pushed into exile, why? उसका सवाल ये है कि you represented India, the civilizational India, the cultural India, the historical India and the literary India, सब कुछ आपको बाहर कर दिया गया। As such जो कश्मीरी पंडितों का वापस जाना है, वो it has to be a pan India मोमेंट हमारी है, उसके लिए इट हैज टू बी इंडिया, जिसको आपने एस्टैब्लिश वहां करना है। इसको जब कन्फाइन करते हैं कुछ हजार कश्मीरी पंडित फैमिलीज के बारे में, तो वो बहुत इनजस्टिस कर रहे हैं।
आई एग्री विद यू अग्निशेखर जी, बट चेंजिंग द लेक्सिकॉन, चेंजिंग द टर्मिनोलॉजी, ये तो मैं मानता हूं आपकी बात की, दैट हैज टू बी चेंज्ड, इट हैज टू बी, इट कैनॉट बी माइग्रेंट्स, इट हैज टू बी द फैक्ट दैट यू आर गोइंग बैक होम। The victims are getting their justice, they have to get their justice. Let me just get the perspectives of Lalit Ambardan and Aarti Tikku. Where do you stand? Do you think there are some baby steps in that direction? To see a Krishna Janmashtami being celebrated at Lal Chowk is welcome.
ये सारा कॉस्मेटिक है।
No, you may say, अग्निशेखर जी, I respect your point of view. मैं आपके सेंटिमेंट को भी समझता हूं कि आप ये कह रहे हैं कॉस्मेटिक है, पर मैं कह रहा हूं कॉस्मेटिक तो कॉस्मेटिक ही सही, लेकिन 32 साल में पहली बार हुआ है, तो कई
हमने भाई साहब हम वेलकम करते हैं, लेकिन अनलेस एंड अंटिल यू एड्रेस द कोर इशू,
I agree,
और एक्सोडस और जिहाद, आप कहीं नहीं पहुंचेंगे।
I totally agree that what had happened was nothing but hate. It is a matter of hate and outright hate towards anybody who was a non-Muslim. And I'm saying it like, and it was
3 seconds। आप मुझे बताइए, अफगानिस्तान में आपने तालिबान के साथ 20 साल लगाए, अमेरिका या और ताकतों ने, क्या तालिबान बदला? 20 साल के बाद वो उससे ज्यादा
नहीं बदला।
और इसी तरह जब अब एड्रेस ही नहीं करेंगे, तो क्या आपको लगता है कश्मीर में आतंकवादी और आइडियोलॉजिकल टेररिज्म बदला है? नहीं बदला है। इवन आर्टिकल 370 के
मैं अग्निशेखर जी मैं आपसे आई डोंट डिफर फ्रॉम यू, पर मैं ये कह रहा हूं, मैं ये कह रहा हूं कि एक सोच को बदलने के लिए आपको कहीं ना कहीं कुछ ना कुछ तो शुरू करना पड़ेगा ना कहीं। जिस भारत को ही, जिस इंडिक सिविलाइजेशन और जिस आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया को ही बाहर करने की बात हो रही थी, और जो भी उससे जुड़े हैं उनको बाहर करने की बात हो रही थी, अब कम से कम वो भारत तो वहां दिख रहा है, अब कम से कम उसका एक रिप्रेजेंटेशन तो दिख रहा है। मैं जानता हूं कि जो हो रहा है वो ज्यादा नहीं हुआ और होना चाहिए। आई एम जस्ट अग्निशेखर जी, प्लीज बेयर विद मी, लेट मी ब्रिंग इन आरती टिक्कू।
आपको दिख रहा है लेकिन भारत नहीं है।
मैं मानता हूं सर, पर कम से कम अब दिखना तो शुरू हुआ है, क्योंकि वो भी नहीं दिखता था। आई एम जस्ट सेइंग दैट एटलीस्ट जो करवट बदलने का काम शुरू हुआ, इट्स अ लॉन्ग टीडियस प्रोसेस, देयर इज सो मच मोर दैट नीड्स टू बी डन। आई एग्री। आरती टिक्कू सिंह, वेयर डू यू स्टैंड ऑन दिस?
Well, I would definitely say that some baby steps have been taken to resolve the question of Kashmir. But at the same time, I would agree with Dr. Abhishekar that the only issue that remains unresolved and unaddressed is that of the ethnic cleansing of Kashmiri Hindus. That is the only issue we have not seen any progress on. That is the only issue that is being still neglected. Why? Because clearly there is politics behind it. Also because Kashmiri Pandits do not have an electoral constituency as other communities perhaps have in this country. But more than that, I think, it's also because for the last 30 years, or rather I would say last 70 years, there's something I would say, obnoxious and absurd about the Indian politics, where a community that was subjected to genocide after independence. We're not talking about pre-independence era of India. We're talking about after independence, and we are talking about after we became a republic.
Correct.
The only community that was subjected to genocide is still being called migrants. It's a shame, it's a travesty that we are not given our due, even in terms of the narrative, even in terms of history, even in terms of moral recognition. So one factor, I really feel that, the government of India, regardless of who is in power, they need to acknowledge that a wrong was committed in the independent India under the very constitution, under the very law that we live under. A community was driven out of their homes. We were ethnically cleansed, and then the state became party, complicit to the crime against that community by not acknowledging that genocide, by not admitting that we've been wrong. It is not fair to say that we are migrants. Second, where is the blueprint for, even if it's return and rehabilitation of displaced Kashmiri Hindus or ethnically cleansed Kashmiri Hindus? Even if, let's say, the government of India is really interested in the return and rehabilitation of Kashmiri Hindus, I haven't seen any blueprint yet. We haven't seen any measures or any steps taken by the government of India on the return and rehabilitation. And I think it is a prerequisite for our return and rehabilitation that the government of India must acknowledge the genocide and must take preventive measures for to prevent another genocide.
Yeah,
even if you
but there is you would at least say that there is at least a portal for you to claim properties that belong to those who have been displaced. There are some steps which I am not saying, and it's going to be a slow process. There are those, Lalit Ambardaran, and thank you for your patience. There are those who still believe that the Kashmiri Pandit community did not fight back. The Kashmiri Pandit community did not stand up. The Kashmiri Pandit community itself is so broken and it's so divided that they cannot unite to ask for what is rightfully theirs. There is that group. What would you say?
We have been discussing Kashmir.
Yes,
for a long time.
you know where I stand. I'm just asking you about where there is this group within even the political circles, the administrative circles across the country who believe that why did they go? Why they have not stood up and fought? Why should we stand up and fight? What are the conditions in which they want to? This is their home. Let them go and stay. What is it that they need? These are questions which are asked.
I do.
Yeah.
I do see these voices coming out even from our ruling elite, who are at the helm these days. Now, Anand, we have to understand what is Kashmir. You don't see, for example, all of us who are here on the panel, we don't see Kashmir in isolation. Kashmir Jihad is the continuity of the same Ghazwa Hind crusade that began 1,000 years ago. In fact, Kashmir is the Himalayan end of the Islamist arc that arises from Middle East, traverses Afghanistan, Pakistan. Kashmir is the Himalayan end of it. We need to realize their eyes are on Lal Killa in Delhi. Kashmir is a mere passage. And why did Kashmiri Hindus suffer? Why were they targeted? They were targeted because, you see, we were targeted because we were seen symbolizing Indian civilizational presence in Kashmir. We were seen a chalta firta, flying tricolor across valley. And remember, those people who say why we did not fight, let them remember it. Let them remember. I want to just remind them historically. Muhammad Ghaznavi, when we were Kashmiri Hindus, 100% Hindus population in Kashmir, Muhammad Ghaznavi tried to attack Kashmir twice. Twice he was thrown out, twice he was repulsed. And after that he came and used to invade Somnath Friday after Friday. So it's not about why we did not fight. I was one home in a mahalla of 100 Muslim families. My neighbors, they closed their doors or windows on us when the Kashmiri jihadists were looking for Kashmiri Hindus with AK-47 in their hands. So it's wrong to say we have been holding India's name, India's presence, India's tricolor in Kashmir. That's why we are targeted. Only when AK-47 Rifles were shown up to us. Rape and murder became the tool
Right.
of genocide. That's the time we left this place. And
Right.
so shame on these people, shame on these apologists, and also some of them I have no hesitation to call them out from the government itself and the Jammu Kashmir BJP and our RSS cadre who are misinforming my Prime Minister, my Narendra Modi Prime Minister, who showed Sanatani civilizational ethos on 5th of August 2019, showed
Right.
political will and got that 370
Well,
and 35.
I can
But
understand.
remember,
I can understand, Lalit Ambardar. I know how passionately. See, you and Dr. Agnishekhar, Lalit Ambardar, and you and Dr. Agnishekhar have talked about this larger axis. You've talked about this larger game which is at play, and that has to first be addressed before you go and do what many believe are cosmetic. We believe these are small little baby steps in the right direction towards reinstating the syncretic ethos and also giving back people who've been displaced from their homes justice. But I have to wind up for the moment with the promise that we will take this forward. And that is a promise assurance I'm making live on television to all of you, that we will take this story forward very, very soon. But for the moment, I have to wind up. I thank you all for joining us this evening. We wind up this edition of The Right Stand on that note. Brass tacks with Zak.